I pray for forgiveness from the Benson family and from Joseph Ryan family and from Mallory. I will never forgive myself for the pain caused.
Today we are back in court in Virginia. Emily, we're back in Fairfax so soon? Yes, because today the co-defendant of Brendan Banfield, the au pair, Juliana Magalhães, is set to be sentenced. What does that mean? Well, remember, she was charged with the murder of Joseph Ryan. She was not charged with the murder of Christine Banfield, just with the murder of Joseph Ryan. And as part of her cooperation with the Commonwealth, she was offered a plea deal for a reduced charge out of the, intentional volitional homicide, reduced it to a manslaughter, and they agreed that the prosecution would recommend a sentence of time served provided she stayed in custody for the duration of the time until Bandfield went to trial. And that's predicated, of course, on her cooperation. She has to testify truthfully, she has to remain cooperative, etc. So will she be sentenced today to time served since her arrest? Remember, she was arrested prior to Banfield's arrest. Or will the judge break with the prosecution's recommendation and sentence her to more time? The max in this case is 10 years. Remember, Bandfield won't be sentenced until May 8th because Judge A said anytime before, July 2nd? Because then I'm retired. So Bandfield won't be sentenced until May. He is facing life plus. She is facing time served to 10 years. And the court can pick within that range. They do not have to go with the prosecution's sentencing recommendation. And this prosecutor in court is not the prosecutor that made this deal. I expect that we will see victim impact statements today. Grab some Kleenex, because with there being victim impact statements, I expect that they're going to be heavy. But imagine if you were friends, family, loved one of Joseph Ryan, Juliana was a critical factor in luring him to the house that morning. And Juliana knew, and Bandfield knew, that they were luring Joseph Ryan there to A, pin this all on him and set him up, and B, kill him. They knew that they were going to kill him. They knew they were going to stage this as a self-defense, defense of others. And so we are going to go to court and see what the judge does.
My baby boy was born 2 days before Christmas, making that our special holiday. His middle name was Nathan, which means gift. Since Joe's murder, I haven't been able to take down my little Christmas tree, which sits behind the urn with his ashes. I say good morning to him each day when I turn on the tree's lights. But of course, that's not Joe sitting there. He can't say, I love you back. My son's life was used and thrown away.
Yes, it was.
Seen as worthless and utterly disposable. Disposal by those who plotted and executed his brutal murder.
Yeah.
Do I think or dare hope that there will be justice for Joe's death? For my loss as his mother? I don't believe that's possible. What I do hope is that, even for a moment, that the world and you, Judge, will say Joe meant more than nothing, that he was someone worthy of dignity and life, who didn't deserve to be used and thrown away, treated as utterly disposable. Thank you for listening and for weighing the trail of pain and loss Juliana left in the wake of her calculated, cold-blooded murder. with her life and future as her only concern. My son, Joseph Nathan Ryan, was not and is not disposable.
For us, Joe did not just die on February 23rd, 23. He was murdered over and over again, every time lies were spoken, every time his picture was posted alongside salacious stories told by two wolves in sheep's clothing who perpetrated this crime and attempted to destroy the memory of two remarkable people. Julia and her boss/lover intended to snuff out the life of two innocent victims who deserve to live full and meaningful lives of their own. Well, while we acknowledge the defendant for eventually coming forward with the truth, telling the truth doesn't absolve her of responsibility. Honesty is something we're taught at a young age. Telling the truth doesn't erase the harm. As he grew into adulthood, Joe's hobbies included building or painting anything that used his fine motor skills. He loved martial arts. He had a great love and respect for our environment, animals, especially mistreated, neglected, and ugly dogs. And he rescued many injured and less loved dogs, bringing them across the country in his travels safely home to the home he shared with his grandmother. Joe cared for people, he cared for animals, and Joe didn't hurt people. We feel as a woman, a caretaker, and as a daughter, Juliana had opportunities to stop this brutal assassination. We think she could have warned Christine. We think she could have warned Joe that morning. This could have been a very
She could have called the police.
Where Juliana saved two lives.
Well, she didn't want to.
But that's not.
Because, baby, I love you. She didn't want to do that.
At least she should have done the job for which she was being paid to protect a child. She did not. So many opportunities to do the right thing, and Juliana over and over chose not to. And while we acknowledge that she found the strength to tell the truth, it doesn't absolve the responsibility. So today we leave here, finally standing as Joe's family.
Joe.
This nightmare's ending. It's our hope that Juliana doesn't walk free, but continues to reflect on how she became capable of doing this, so that when she does return to Brazil, she never victimizes another person, never betrays another child in her care, and never again places selfish desire above human life.
I have caused you all pain that cannot be measured and forever changed so many lives. I pray for forgiveness from the Benson family and from Joseph Ryan family and from Mallory. I will never forgive myself for the pain caused. I hope that my cooperation in this case somehow begin to help repair the damage caused. There is nothing I could possibly do to make it up to you, to your loss. Sorry. There are so many regrets, but this is my biggest. That's it. That's a tragedy I have been carrying with me, and I will always do. It's something I have nightmares with. A tragedy I know I can never take back the devastation of what I have done. I know that my remorse cannot bring you peace. I hope you might someday understand that I truly do not believe that his plan would have actually happened. I have grown so much over the past 3 years.
When you were sitting in the cul-de-sac with a gun in your pocket, you were still like, I don't think this is going to happen. I am having a hard time believing it. I do believe she feels some kind of way about the loss to Valerie. But I really didn't believe his plan was going to happen. Okay, then when you call 911, don't hang up or don't pull the trigger.
God and I only know the shame and guilt and sorrow I carry for all I have caused. Sorry for Joe's family and Christine's family. Sorry for Valerie, an innocent little girl.
I believe she feels for Valerie. I do.
That will grow without her mother and our father. This I have burden to carry, knowing could have prevented it at all from happening. I understand that I am to blame, and I'm truly sorry for the pain it caused. I hope someday I can be forgiven, as I hope to be able to forgive myself. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. In this matter, the court does find that the manslaughter charge was the large benefit of your bargain for testifying, which was a huge bargain in a plea deal. You could have been facing life plus 3 years, and now the maximum I can sentence you to today is 10 years. That's clearly a trade for your cooperation with the Commonwealth and what the Commonwealth offered. And you accepted that along with the Commonwealth's recommendation for time served, which is not an agreement, and as you know, not binding on the court, as we discussed at length at your plea. The reduction of the charge is a mitigation. I have watched your interviews and I watched you testify, and I just cannot find any further mitigation factors for your case. You may not have come up with a plan, agreed, and an older man may have groomed you to a point, but I want to list for the record the facts that I cannot equate with accepting a time-served recommendation. These are aggravating factors either not fully captured or not reflected in the sentencing guidelines. Number one, until today, you have shown no empathy for the victim in this case. Number two, you were more involved with the plan than you testified to. First off, there were numerous postings on social media platforms and text platforms looking for a target, texting and speaking directly with Joseph Ryan, encouraging him to bring the knife, and ultimately through the phone conversation, getting his consent, knowing all along you were bringing him to his death.
Yeah.
Lying to Christine and setting up the plan for the zoo, using her devices and hiding her phone, using a child as a pawn in your plan, waiting outside for Joseph to show up, calling Mr. Bandfield to bring him to the scene, and at any point for at least the month prior or that day, you could have stopped this. The plan did not work without your full involvement.
Yep.
Number three, having the loaded firearm in your pocket. Number four, bringing a child into the basement knowing two people were about to be murdered, to include the child's mother. Number five, hearing Christine ask you to call 911, which you did and then immediately hung up. Number six, seeing Joseph Bryan, who was shot in the head at that time, still moving and walking up to him as he lay moaning on the floor and shooting him point blank in the heart. Number seven, watching as Mr. Banfield stabbed Christine over and over again. Number eight, waiting 15 minutes before recalling 911. Number nine, telling a fabricated story for over a year and a half, a story that depicted Joseph Ryan wrongly as a rapist and a murderer, an innocent man. And number 10, telling the child it was okay to call you mommy hours after the murder. Your actions were deliberate, self-serving, and demonstrated a profound disregard for human life. So let's get it straight. You do not deserve anything other than incarceration and a life of reflection on what you have done to the victim and this family. May it weigh heavily on your soul. So today I'm sentencing you on a manslaughter charge because that's what's before me. And the facts of this case demonstrate an intentional and calculated level of violence that is the most serious manslaughter scenario that this court has ever seen.
Yeah, because it's
Therefore, I do sentence you to 10 years in the penitentiary, as required by Virginia Code 19.2, 295.2. After you've completed your 10-year sentence, I will order an additional 2 years suspended, and you will be placed on probation pursuant to Virginia Code 19.2, 303.
When you go to trial, the judges hear every visceral detail of the thing. And even though it was the co-defendant's trial, so much came to light that the judge cannot ignore. And the judge highlighted that the large part of the benefit of Juliana Magalhães' bargain was that her first-degree murder charge was not reduced to a second degree, was reduced all the way down to a manslaughter, which is not what you would normally see with intentional homicides. Could they have reduced it to a second? Sure, they could have. That would have given her the option for parole. It would not have given her a life period sentence. They reduced it all the way down to a manslaughter where the max was 10 years. And we could see it during the defense's arguments today that Juliana's cooperation was critical to the prosecution of Brendan Banfield. They were arguing, but for Juliana's cooperation, Bandfield doesn't get convicted at trial. I don't know if I necessarily agree with them, but that is their argument. I don't think Judge A agrees with them because what Judge A said is this was the most egregious set of facts to be seen on a manslaughter, right? Because it's not a manslaughter. And we saw the impact statements, and the judge has more of them submitted, but we saw the impact statements from victim Joseph Ryan's mother and aunt. And the pain that these families have been through, not only knowing that Joseph Ryan did not do what he was accused of in the media and by many, and including Juliana Magalhães, until she came clean, that he was portrayed in disgusting and horrific ways, in addition to them trying to mourn their loss, knowing that what was being said about him wasn't true. So have they been vindicated at trial? Yes, but they are also now left with the echoes of the 911 call, the photos that were shown at trial, and knowing the cold, calculating details that Joseph Ryan was hunted in online forums to be a fall guy and a victim, that he was hunted to be led to his death by Juliana and Brendan Banfield. And his mom said multiple times, he's not disposable. And they treated him like he was. And I agree, they did. And Juliana made her statement, take away from it what you will. I think she was expressing genuine grief over her betrayal of Valerie, because Valerie will know that the woman who said, sure, you can call me mommy, is the one who, well, among other things, planned the murder of her mother and to subject her mother to unthinkable terror leading up to her murder. And Judge A clocked all of it and said that the benefit of her deal was the reduction in charge to the manslaughter, and that there are too many factors in aggravation to agree with the Commonwealth's recommended sentence of time served. So Juliana is sentenced to the maximum allowable by the agreement, the reduction in charge, for 10 years in prison. And so she will get transported off to prison. She will get time served for the time she has been in since October 2023. And she will have to reflect on what has happened. She is not going to just immediately get released to go home to her family. But unlike the families of the victims, Juliana will have an opportunity to move on from this at some point. They will never move on from their grief. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the LawNerd app at lawnerd.app.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.